Okay.
3 and 13. 13 and 3. You see, in my life, there has been a very big difference between these two numbers. 3 stands for something that is good and something that is complete. However, in my life, it has stood for quite the opposite. But the number 10, the difference between 3 and 13, proves to be the number that is important. 10 represents a change and a new beginning. And that's exactly what is represented in my life, a change and a new beginning. A few weeks ago, Demetrius introduced me to you all, and he talked about my involvement in a nonprofit within the church. Today, I want to talk to you more about that and explain how that, in company with running, has led to establishing the importance of the quality of faith within my life. A little background on me. Growing up, I've always been super involved in faith and in sports. For my faith, I always grew up in the church, and in seventh grade, I established a personal relationship with the Lord. My faith is something that I continue to center my life upon today. Now into sports. Growing up, I've always been pretty good at sports. I played baseball, softball, soccer, volleyball, and I danced, ran, and swam. So, yeah, you could say that I was pretty good and I caught on pretty fast. However, there was one area of sports in which I could never catch on to, and that is distance running. About halfway through my first year of track season, my coach decided to try to make me run a distance race, and the farthest that she could make me run was a 400, which for those of you who do not know track, that is a singular lap around the track, and not considered a distance race for many people. However, I ended by almost throwing up and feeling like I was on the edge of life and death. So naturally, since I am not a distance runner, I never familiarized myself with the lingo that distance runners use. Because why would I need to know this? I'm never going to run a distance race in my life. However, little did I know that years later this would come back and haunt me. Fast forward a few years to my junior year of high school. I'm walking into church one day and I get a text from my friend that says, "Hey, do you want to run a half marathon with me to raise money for an organization called World Vision?" I'm kind of in a rush going to church, so I just quickly respond, "Yeah, sure, sounds great." Don't really think of it and go into church that day. Little did I know that when I get into church, they tell me more about this organization called World Vision, which raises money to help supply clean water to kids in the Dominican Republic of Congo. You see, hundreds of kids have to walk over 4 miles a day, carrying heavy jugs of dirty water that ends up killing over 800 kids every single day. Hearing this completely rocked my heart, and I knew that participating in this race was something that I needed to do. So, as someone who had never run over a singular mile straight in my life, I signed up to run a half marathon. This brings us back to 3 and 13 and the fact that there is indeed a huge difference between them. See, since I was not a distance runner, I thought a half marathon was 3 miles and not the 13.1 that it actually is. I guess I am even less of a distance runner than I thought I was. But because I had signed up and I felt like my heart was already in this cause, I decided to go forward with the process, putting my faith in God that He would somehow create some big, amazing thing through my simple misunderstanding of what a half marathon was. So the next week I set off on this journey to run a half marathon. I'd run multiple miles before I went to school each day. I would go to school and soccer or track practice, and then I would run a few more miles before I went home to do homework. It was a lot, but it was worth it. About 2 weeks before the half marathon, I became very sick with the stomach flu and missed over 2 weeks of training and actually threw up 2 times during the half marathon, not because I was tired or out of breath, but because I was so sick. Throughout this time, I thought about quitting multiple times, but I recentered myself and remembered that I was doing this in order to bring glory to God's kingdom and to serve people rather than to get a certain place or get a certain time within the race. Throughout this whole process, I was humbled and astounded at the work I was able to do for God. This brings us back to my core value of faith. Faith is choosing to put your complete trust in someone or something. In my case, that is putting my trust in God. When I first went into this experience, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know how many miles I would have to run a day, what food I would have to eat to get in shape for the race, or even how to pace myself for a singular mile. But I chose to put my faith in God's abilities rather than my lack of abilities. Looking back, I honestly could not tell you how I managed to run 13 miles after only running one in my life, or how I trained for multiple months for this journey. But I know that my faith in Him made all the difference. And this allowed me to raise over $4,000 for World Vision, which equated to giving 80 kids in the Dominican Republic of Congo clean water for life. My small steps and yes to God in faith allowed Him to create a bigger impact for me. You see, a lot of times we are presented with two options. We can take the easy and attainable route, or we can do something that is seemingly impossible. But it is when we take a jump from the attainable to the seemingly impossible, for me, the jump of 10, that we are able to grow in our faith, push obstacles, and create real change. I would like to end with a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that I feel perfectly sums up my journey in faith and my journey in running throughout this time. Faith is taking the first step, even when you cannot see the whole staircase. Thank you.